He's always been about the poor. He's always been about people who are on the fringes of society, whether they were poor or they had horrible diseases or they were tax collectors, or they were prostitutes and adulterers.
God's heart for the poor is that they may be liberated, as their liberation translates to the liberation of God himself, because God is primarily the victim of the injustice in the world.
Jesus is a person of justice. The life of Jesus, the birth of Jesus, and the death and resurrection of Jesus are symbols and examples of Jesus doing justice in society.
There is a point of crisis that we're coming to as a country. This is a time where the church doesn't need to be playing second string.
If the church doesn't find itself at the forefront, open to the strangeness and the scariness and the challenging nature of these decolonial conversations, we're going to find ourselves to be very irrelevant and very useless quite soon.
We live with theologies that have an overly strong focus on individuals and individual sin and individual morality, rather than recognizing that sin ultimately turns into systemic sin, turns into systemic things that are counter to the ways of God. And when they do that, we would talk about them as injustices.
South Africa has a particular history of injustice because of a legal system that created injustice. And so in South Africa, it's even more important for us, especially as disciples of Jesus, to ask the question, how do we do justice? How do we bring justice? Because we follow a person, Jesus, who does justice.
Transformed individuals transform society. So a transformed society looks like a people who are lovers of God, but who live out their regeneration in the direction of the poor, the marginalized, the oppressed, the kind of people that Jesus prioritized.
There should be no tears currently. God being with his people, for his people. God is good in heaven. We do not doubt that. Therefore, God should be good in our current experience.
The invitation is the invitation to relationship, to deep, authentic relationship. It recognizes that the journey to that relationship requires conversation, requires us to wrestle through the hard things, requires us to be honest, requires us to express hurt, express repentance. But that's not the invitation. The invitation is to come and participate in the fullness of relationship, which is intended by God and which reflects the fullness of all humanity.
If you are somebody who is asking, what does Jesus have to do with justice? Then the Justice Conference is for you. If you are somebody who is sitting and you have a theological or a theoretical understanding of how Jesus and justice fits together, but you don't know how that informs how you should live, then the Justice Conference is for you. If you are somebody who has been doing the long, hard work of justice for many years and are feeling abandoned and isolated and tired in that work, then the Justice Conference is for you.